From Inc.com, this is the Inc. Productivity Tip. Expert opinions, valuable insight, and helpful advice from today's top business coaches, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs. AI has an optics problem. For years, surveys have shown that public perception of AI is largely negative. When the Pew Research Center polled thousands of U.S. adults back in 2024, only 17% of them thought the technology would have a positive impact in the years to come. Most of them were especially concerned with job losses, with 64% of respondents saying they believed AI would eliminate jobs in the near future. A Gallup poll last week indicated that Americans have actually grown more skeptical of AI, even as they have become more familiar with the technology. While over half of Americans, 52%, still think AI can do equal amounts of good and harm, there's been a sharp increase in the number of people who have fallen out of love with artificial intelligence. In 2024 and 2025, Gallup found that 31% of people surveyed said they felt AI did more harm than good. This year, that figure jumped to 39%, and among young people between the ages of 18 and 29, it was even higher at 47%. Only 9% of people thought AI could do more good than harm, down from 12% last year. AI adoption has climbed steadily in the workplace and beyond, suggesting the shift in public opinion is informed by a greater awareness of AI's potential for harm rather than fear of the unknown. Drawing on data from a nationally representative household survey, the Federal Reserve found earlier this year that 41% of employees now use generative AI in the workplace, while half of Americans use it outside of work, an increase of 31% and 26% year over year, respectively. Now, in the Gallup survey, 70% of respondents said they are somewhat or extremely knowledgeable about AI, as compared with 64% 2 years prior. Despite being more comfortable with the technology, workers are still worried about how it could impact their livelihood, in part because of how the business world has enthusiastically embraced it. According to Gallup, many Americans have little faith that companies will use AI responsibly, with only 27% of respondents saying they have at least some trust in businesses, a decrease from 31% last year. Now, much of their skepticism also seems driven by the belief that AI will kill jobs, even if that hasn't been borne out yet in overall employment data. Some employers even claim AI will spur them to hire more people. Nearly 8 in 10 people polled by Gallup said AI would slash jobs over the next decade, and there was a significant uptick among older and younger respondents relative to their concerns about job loss 2 years ago. Many of these fears may have been stoked in the last year as major companies have repeatedly cited AI in their layoff announcements, even while some of them have insisted it's not the primary reason. AI is likely just one of a constellation of factors behind corporate restructuring decisions, but that may be little comfort for workers who have more existential concerns about how AI could fundamentally alter their lives. It's pretty likely that you've spent the last year or so purchasing new enterprise software and AI licenses for your team. You probably assume that by simply providing these cutting-edge capabilities, your employees will automatically become faster and more productive. Now, the reality points in the opposite direction. When you hand employees a new tool without a structural mandate to change how they work, they do not innovate. They simply use the new technology to do their old bad habits slightly faster. If you want to generate a massive return on your technology investments, you need to stop acting like a software vendor and start acting like a commanding officer. The U.S. Navy is currently executing a masterclass in technological adoption, and their exact playbook is entirely applicable to your startup. The Department of the Navy realized that simply deploying algorithms to its workforce was not enough. The bottleneck is no longer the capability of the technology. The true bottleneck is adoption speed. To force a rapid evolution, Department of Navy Chief Technology Officer Justin Finelli just helped launch the Artificial Intelligence Efficiency Challenge. He said, "Deployment is not adoption, and adoption is not impact, but they're all related enough that you can line them up like dominoes. Make AI adoption a competition for outcomes, gamified and inspiring if possible." Now, he went on to say that, put out a starter offering, open the doors, define what winning looks like, measure the results, and turn your best users into champions. Adapt what exists, adopt what works, and scale what delivers. Finelli suggested starting with accessible tools, clearly defining what success looks like, measuring the results, and turning top performers into champions who help others adopt AI. His approach is pretty simple: adapt what already exists, adopt what works, and scale what delivers. Instead of a passive rollout, the Navy turned automation into a massive internal return on investment contest. The department is actively challenging its sailors, Marines, and civilian employees to document measurable productivity gains and submit verified time-saving use cases to a centralized scoreboard. Finelli noted that the goal is to identify decentralized innovation and elevate the high-achieving mavericks who are leaning the farthest forward. The military is explicitly trading time for impact. The strategy is already working. At the Naval Air Warfare Center Weapons Division, a resource specialist named Shale Baker utilized AI to completely overhaul a sluggish government purchase card approval pipeline. By stepping into the role of a software engineer through self-learning and generative tools, Baker turned a manual burden into a highly agile system that directly supports mission-critical requests. This military framework provides the perfect blueprint for modern founders. Here are 3 leadership lessons that you must pull from the strategy of the Navy and do it right now. First, gamify your technological adoption. Now, you cannot just deploy software and expect your team to figure it out. The Navy created a transparent scoreboard and an official challenge to highlight measurable gains. You must build an internal competition that rewards employees who discover the most creative, time-saving use cases for your new tools. When you gamify the process, you force your team to actively analyze their workflows rather than passively waiting for instructions. Secondly, demand a measured baseline. You cannot prove a return on investment if you do not know how slow you are moving in the first place. The Navy Challenge requires participants to establish strict baselines by measuring the exact time required to complete routine workflows without assistance before tracking the improved performance. You must require your managers to document their legacy completion times. This provides undeniable proof of the value that your software purchases are generating. Third, emphasize human-machine teaming. Now, the goal of automation is not to make your employees irrelevant. Finelli emphasized that the ultimate evolution is human-machine teaming at the organizational level. You must constantly communicate to your staff that algorithms are levers to amplify their unique intelligence. When your people realize that technology is there to make them high-achieving mavericks rather than replace them, adoption friction will disappear. Now, the message from the military is incredibly clear for modern managers. The smartest executives are no longer relying on passive software rollouts. They are borrowing a page from the U.S. Navy's playbook, building systems that encourage continuous innovation and preparing teams to execute with confidence in a high-stakes economy. That's all for today. For more expert opinions from today's top business coaches and thought leaders, go to Inc.com/lead. Be sure to come back tomorrow for another helpful tip or tips from Inc.